Hello and welcome to Expresso Aishwarya.
My
So good to
pleasure.
have you here.
Thank you, Prin.
It's been such a long time since we caught up, and I know you've been busy juggling so many duties like mom duty, and then of course your work in the movies and Cannes and whatnot. How do you do it so effortlessly? I mean, obviously there's a lot of effort, but it doesn't seem like it.
The trick is in its seeming effortless. Of
Yes.
course, there is a lot of. It's all hard work, as it would be for every working woman, but or every working mother more so. But the choices are what we make. So we have to, within that. Find the pleasure in the work area. When it comes to the kid, it's all pleasure, and,
Yes.
and that's like, there's just so much love in that space that the giving is natural, and you receive a millionfold. So that's not an effort at all, but it's a great discovery to have with every phase in life, no?
True. And yet, how do you continue to look so beautiful?
This is all a team.
It's all a
team that puts it together. But beyond that, I think, that's the external. But I think what's important is to keep holding on to what's within, and if that radiates through, then I'm grateful for blessings.
You know, in your upcoming film, Fanne Khan, you play a singer, and you have an admirer in Pihu who wants to be like you, and people somehow don't believe in her because she's fat, being one of the major reasons, And the whole idea of body shaming, that's kind of come to the fore, but I know that you've been through it when you went to Cannes at the red carpet event post your delivery, and there was so much flack about, should she be looking like this kind of thing, and you took it like without a furrow on your brow or anything like that. Did it affect you in any way?
No, not in the least. But to be very honest, actually, I don't even think the situations can remotely be compared. Various phases of life, there has been the negativity, which has been, I guess, a good balance to offset the immense amount of positivity I have received at various phases of my life. And by that, it's all encapsulating, whether in your school life, student life, collegiate life, entering showbiz, joining the movies. I think very early in life, developed the ability to focus on the positive.
Yes.
And when you do that, and if you recognize that that's just so much more, it's really easier to wash away the natural pain that every human being experiences, even with the slightest negativity.
Right.
We're all human. We all go through the sting, and but the truth is, only we can develop the ability for ourselves to try and withstand that,
Right.
or negate it, or brush it aside, or take it on your chin, or take it in your stride. It's really about your perspective and your outlook, and I know that's simpler said for many, and immensely tough for many, and that's why. I don't know, I keep, probably like a mantra, keep going on and on, that we have to be our own best friend.
True.
And by that I mean be brutally honest with yourself. And in doing so, we can self-help, we can self-heal, and we can face and hold on to our own sense of self.
What's your struggle, if any? I mean, share any of your struggles.
See, it's nice when you throw in the if any, because somehow people tend to, I think because that's the way I've also been written about. Very often, I myself sometimes see articles start with, oh, how fairy tale like life, and I'll be like, nice. I can see why perceivably
Right.
life seems easier. And especially to those for whom life has been exceedingly challenging and difficult.
Yes.
So, it's all relative. Okay, so within your own story, you know that everything may not necessarily have always been hunky-dory. It's taken a lot of commitment, a lot of hard work, a lot of struggles within your own dynamic.
True.
And, it's hard work. Nothing comes easy. Nobody is free of, perceptions attracting jibes. So, and jibes can hurt anyone, irrespective of what they are.
True.
There is, however, a recognition of what are specific jibes, and that kind of socially gets discussed, and rightly so, and have to be addressed,
Yeah.
and have to be stopped because of the extreme damaging impact it can have on a lot of people out there, where feeling hurt is a horrible experience. I
Yes.
mean, it's And that's why I feel sometimes when people in the name of humor are just basically jibing,
Right.
you know, first ask yourself if you have the capacity to take it on your chin.
True.
And do not do that so easily to the other, because not everybody has the same, hey, take it easy, you know,
Yeah.
keep it light, grow a sense of humor. And you're like, do you have the same sense of humor? Do not hit at people where it can hurt a bit too hard.
One of the other things about you that's famous is that you rarely exercise. Has that changed? Or
Oh,
can
no.
we continue to feel jealous of you?
No. I exercise my right. My
To
right
not
to choose.
exercise.
No. I should. I have a very, very healthy approach to life, and which I hold on to, and I constantly develop and redevelop, which I think is important. But I'd still like to embrace a healthier way of lifestyle. Honestly, I'm grateful for metabolism so far, but and I'm active. I'm not lazy.
Not
I'm
sedentary.
very active. Yeah. So I mean that's there, and I'm a worker. I'm a worker, so I think that's just I'm probably like those ants from the morning, constantly at it.
Being in the profession that you're in, would you ever consider cosmetic surgery or any sort of thing like that?
See, at this point, and you can see everything's moving. You guys would know. Very honestly, it's God's been kind so far. And it's each to their own in the choices that
Sure.
they make. So I think when people have not explored it, we always tend to say that maybe not yet,
Sure.
or maybe no. But you know, with time, I mean, I remember probably if you'd asked me 20 years ago, would I ever color my hair? At that point, I was like, no. Why? I had brown hair and I had natural streaks.
Yes.
And then, you know, I joined a brand, and with that I started experimenting, and it worked. I think people should make informed choices.
Yes.
That's extremely important, and you know, whatever choices you'll make in your life,
Right.
and be sure. I mean, so far, like I said, I have been fortunate where I have never needed to embrace any diets. Some people possibly need to,
Absolutely.
you know. So we can't sit on a high horse and give any kind of advice that you don't need to do this. So many people have the best of bodies,
Right.
but they're taking supplements. So then there's the whole debate on supplements. You know, should they or shouldn't they? Just make informed choices. There are medical practitioners. You know, take the correct advice. I guess know that you know you need to really know the science of anything before you make any choices, and take it from there.
You know, you've been amongst sort of, I think, the first actually to sort of demand an equal sort of pay in which was sort of proportionate to your international stardom, way before all these conversations started about wage parity, etc. Do you think Bollywood has changed for the better ever since?
Very honestly, my approach has been slightly different in the
Right.
sense that from the time I started, I just, and I'm grateful for all the producers I've worked with, and obviously
Yes.
at this point I'll name only them, not the ones I haven't. But right from the beginning when I have worked, it's been, I've worked on my own terms. I don't
Yes.
think I ever brought up pay parity. It was never compared to anybody.
Right.
Even from my modeling days.
Yes.
I mean, very little bit work that I did, but I still remember I did a very few shows, say, on ramp, and I'd bring that as a point of, as an example, because I remember that I was a student, so I could hardly attend rehearsal, but I had a natural sway to my walk or whatever, the walk kind of worked. And it just meant knowing a bit of a rhythm, so I would sometimes come literally on the day and not hardly attend rehearsal, or maybe a few, but not as extensive. And at one point, I remember one of the very senior choreographers telling me that this was a bit of a debate because I was obviously getting the pay scale of the top model.
Right.
And, you know, if they said if you have to define height, I'm 5'7". I'm not somebody who's hitting the gym. I'm not somebody who's attending rehearsals. And I was like, but I've like literally come to my T-square and said, okay, Saturday I can do a show, so morning I've done a bit of a rehearsal and there I'm in the evening on ramp. And they were like, yeah, but you're doing your job and that's fine.
Right.
You know, you're getting it for what you're delivering.
Yes.
And what you're commanding.
Yes.
And so I'm grateful that there were people who got that, because I mean, obviously I'm not like just shooting the breeze and, you know, negotiating there. I thought whatever little jobs I've ever done, I do it professionally. And not that I'm trying to fight on my terms. I'm working on my terms, literally. And because of that, I mean, I'm fortunate that I got to work with some great talent. But yes, I will say to you that I did lose out also. I did walk away from a lot of work as well. If it meant at times people were like, it's tough to set up a project with you and these big male leads, because then it's just, it just throws up the budget of the entire film.
Right.
And I'm like, all right, so then you decide if it's that replaceable, then that's cool.
True.
Because either you see and you feel, okay, this makes for a good casting.
Yes.
And you're investing in that, or you're saying, no, casting your name with this big name throws up the budget a lot. And then again, if it means let's all discuss bringing the budget down together, let's all discuss bringing the budget down together.
Yeah.
And that's the way I've always spoken. So for me, when I read it currently or hear of it currently, I'm like, all right, great if it's all being discussed aloud now.
Yes.
But this has kind of been happening in my career for the longest. And if this is what has narrowed down my choices, then within this cesspool, I'll make the choices that genuinely make me enjoy my work. And I'm very grateful that many of you, members of the media, noticed those choices, brought attention to it, and my audience out there as well have viewed my work. And today, on hindsight, in the long run, it has actually helped me carve my own story, which feels good to be original.
Absolutely. In fact, you were also among one of the, I think, first actresses who sort of made it into Hollywood in the mainstream movies, outside the sort of Indo-Brit projects sort of thing. You had Pink Panther, and then you also didn't do a few films.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Why didn't you do them? Mr. and Mrs. Smith and...
at that time when suddenly things were changing here too for me in my career, because while at one point I was suddenly doing a whole load of these movies with a certain colleague or a couple of colleagues, suddenly that got cleaned out.
Right.
And at the same phase, coincidentally, there was already interest because of Devdas and Can, which was very, very on high octave, in the sense the interest from the West. So I kind of said, all right, I guess it's meant to be, because suddenly, even schedule-wise, this is seemingly open. And you go and you explore it. And then, at the same time, interestingly, work was opening up here again, while you're going there and having those meets. And somewhere deep down, I've loved our cinema, I've been a part of it. So I did then take on, in that two were already committed. So I had those dates, those schedules. So there I've always been righteous about the films I'm committed to.
Right.
And that can't move around. And the films in the West and here work a little differently, in the sense that when they meet you, I mean, these terms were then new to me at that point. And they say green lit and ready to roll like in 2 months. And then they lock you off for that period of time. Right. Because of the insurances. The way the entire film schedule is, you're locked off. Right. Which was very new for us who are working full throttle here, where there is schedule and schedule all a bit kind of interlaced, Right. So to lock off, like even when Troy was spoken about, forget on the script level, if they were saying at least 6 to 9 months to lock off, because it's a huge film, first schedule in Malta and this, that and the other, and you're like, wow, but obviously we have a way of looking like, but this is your part. Right. Lock off that kind of time. Yeah. Of course, you understand the impact of the largesse of that piece of cinema. Movie, but to lock off that kind of time when you have those, albeit very small films here, which I was committed to, I couldn't get myself to just kick that to the curb. It's exciting because these are huge offers. It's difficult because you're walking away from possibly, I'd heard interviews of a lot of my seniors say on a lot of television interviews of, there is a glass ceiling to break and it can't be done. Right. Many seniors who had and they believed it cannot happen here. Right. And you're like, I know it can it's happening. It can happen. And I could be the one making that difference, and kind of you want to. And then again, you're like, but there are so many things I'm not sure I'd be comfortable doing. And in the long run, that's what I'll be living with, because this is forever. It could be a point proven, but I might not be comfortable with it. And so I walked away from a lot of projects. And that's how, and I knew it'll be like, and you can see how it's going to roll ahead. So she's doing just a couple of these Indo-British ones. Oh, right, it was meant to happen. See, it couldn't happen. Or, and some movies, like say Bride and Prejudice, huge beyond our boundaries. Yes. And it's for the longest time got an even bigger response, interestingly, than Pink Panther for me, wherever I went, and in the West, by the Westerners. But here, because of the dubbed version, there's an impression set. But I'd gone through that with Jeans. So I knew with Jeans too, and people said, she's done Jeans.
Yeah.
But for the Tamil film industry, till date, it is huge. And they love it. So I had already so early in my career learned to sieve through that.
Right.
That what's great for where you've done it, focus on that, because it might not be the same elsewhere. It might be a totally different noise, especially in the Hindi film industry. So just take that reaction and don't buy into it completely. Allow for it, but don't buy into it. And that's how I've held on to my positivity in all these varied different situations.
So obviously we would love to watch you in many more films. What is coming up now? I mean, we see you like once every couple of years and in smaller parts. When do we get to see another full sort of a film with you in the lead? Like sort of the way we saw you in Sarabji.
Yeah, thank you. It's kind of sweet when you feel a bit missed. But like I said, I thought in Iruvar itself, I made my statement where I said I'd love to work with filmmakers in parts, and I'm so glad I did that in my first film, so that people don't think it's transition phase at any point in time. Kind of do it. You work in a regional film. It's not because you don't have work in Hindi films. You are showing the world that look, I'm open to do parts, and it's got nothing to do with what time in what phase of your career. The kind of roles I have always mixed it up. There's Indian, there's traditional, there's mature, there is contemporary, there's light-hearted, and and now also I think with Air I started showing that look, I'm okay even with this so-called, I'm not going to slot it and announce it as a guest appearance or and I'm not going to ask for that title either.
Yeah.
Because there was that discussion, from your professional friends who were like, if you want, even Karan towards the end said, do you think you want that? And I'm like, in the beginning we decided, let's hold on to that no.
Right.
Because I'm part of the cast and I'm going to own it. Even this, what we're doing now, there was a thought about, should you be doing publicity when, you're a chapter, as I politely put it, in a film? And I'm like, I am a team player.
Yes.
I think I would give that to my producers, my director, my team. I did this movie because I believed in us as a team.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to give my presence all the way.
Yeah.
So it's not about, but I am clearly sharing with my audience so that you don't go out there and say, Acha itna hi. Because that did happen during Air Dil, you know, which was sweet because in a way at that point it was like, God, we missed you. We were like, that's it. We're like, why aren't you coming back? And I was like, that's really sweet and thank you.
Yes.
But that's the way, it's nice. It's nice to have that too.
Absolutely.
The
audience wanting more of
I think that's nice. And it's okay because I think if some of us come together and sometimes like when you see this movie.
Right.
It's important when it's cast right, Priyanka. So many times, I mean, Anil is perfect for Funny.
Yes.
It had to be him. So, and he was on board. And when we were reading, when they came to me, I said, look, I can see why you'd want me to do this part. And I'd do it. And they were like, yeah, really? I was like, yeah, because, and of course, then we worked, we tweaked.
Yeah.
It's become more than what probably initially on the paper. We brought in a lot more layers than even there was. It's still a little, but detailed compared to what was written, and that's something what we do then. When you come on board, you kind of do that. And then you read, Raj was like it was my wish list. I just said, someone like him would be great, and glad he agreed and came on board because then, like Anil put it yesterday, he said, we end up just ticking all the boxes right.
Yeah.
Pihu was already on, and Divya was there, and then you see this is kind of, it's come together. Then it just flows.
Yeah.
Everyone, and then it feels right because you're telling a story correctly. We feel special about Funny. And we hope that percolates down to the audience. But at the end of the day, we know it was special for us and it felt right.
No, it looks very interesting for sure. And how is it with Aradhya growing up? Like, how is that coming along? She looks adorable. I saw some photos of her like flouncing her dress like you.
Actually she's just having fun. It's going to be her life, and I guess perception is going to be a part of it as well. She's our daughter. But, she's a lovely, I keep saying supercalifragilistic. She's my daughter. So I'm obviously going to be gushing and be besotted. But it's beautiful. I just keep saying life is beautiful with her. She is my love. She's the reason I breathe. And, it's everybody in an interview will bring up, is it hard work? And you kind of say, I have to say that because it's true.
Yes.
Parenting is a responsibility, but something just clicks. It becomes a part of you. There isn't you don't ever feel the onus of it at any point in time. It's not pressure. It isn't this. There is no rule book. Every day is new, and I believe, even though there may be some kind of commonality to parenting,
right,
it's individual. Each one's experience will be, and you have to enjoy it because it is. It is so enjoyable. It's meditation. It's peace. In all that, the hard work, it's peace, and it's love in its superlative. So
thank you, Aishwarya. I mean, it's so great to know that you're, just doing all these things seamlessly as always. And always a source of inspiration and someone that we look forward to watching in the movies.
Thank you
very
so much, Priyanka.
Thanks
Pleasure
for
as
joining
always
us.
talking to you.